The iPhone 11 is 4 years old at this stage, but with its commonality in the used market, it's worth asking whether the iPhone 11 is the best budget iPhone in 2024. Let's talk about it. Performance-wise, we're looking at the A13 Bionic chip, which is actually still a really good processor in today's time. It still ranks as one of the top 20 fastest processors in any mobile smartphone, and the performance actually shows. Running games such as S4 9, Genshin Impact all ran super smooth, and even when the graphics are a bit turned up, you can still play with a pretty solid frame rate. Performance is actually pretty decent. Whether you're flicking between social media, doing different apps, multitasking, the iPhone 11 can handle it really well, even at this age. It runs everything really smoothly with no lag, stutter or frame drops, which is great to see for a phone at this age. It does come with 4GB of RAM, which isn't the most, but it still manages to handle most applications pretty well, and it doesn't cause any reloading when switching between different apps. However, if you do try to push it and if you're a heavier user, the iPhone 11 might not be able to keep up with you. The iPhone 11's performance is good enough for most people who are using this phone for light multitasking and medium usage. If you're a heavier user, the iPhone 11 might not be able to keep up with you. I think it's incredible to see that the iPhone 11 at this age still has enough power in it to be able to run most applications with no issues and to do a bit of multitasking smoothly with no lags, stutters or drop frames. You can even do a bit of gaming with the graphics turned up, so that is something really cool to see on the iPhone 11. Now let's talk about the cameras on the iPhone 11. The iPhone 11 is equipped with a dual camera setup, a 12MP wide and a 12MP ultra wide. Let's start with the main sensor. The main 12MP wide camera is the equivalent of a 26mm focal length, and it looks pretty good in pretty much any scenario. Whether in good lighting or bad lighting, the iPhone 11 also is the first iPhone to have night mode, so those shots at night do look a lot better than past iPhones. The main sensor is very versatile and looks great in pretty much any lighting condition. When we turn to the ultra-wide sensor, it was actually the first ultra-wide lens to be incorporated in an iPhone. And even though it does a great job of replicating the same colors on the main sensor, it doesn't quite look as good in terms of resolution and sharpness as the main camera. The dynamic range isn't quite the same, but it still looks really good in most situations, except for low light where it does suffer quite a bit. Overall, the cameras on the iPhone 11 are really good. The main sensor is perfect for pretty much any situation, and the ultra-wide is a really fun lens to play around with. In terms of video on the iPhone 11, the iPhone 11 can shoot up to 4K 60fps, which is really good and pretty much the best out of any phone at this price point at this stage. It is great to see that you can be able to shoot really high quality videos, and the results look pretty good. If you were to choose between any budget phone at $200 in today's age and compare it to the iPhone 11, the iPhone 11 blows it out of the waters. When we switch to the ultra-wide lens, it looks pretty good as well on the iPhone 11, and there's no complaints with videos on the iPhone 11 for me. Stabilization is also really on point with the iPhone 11. Even though it's not inbuilt body image stabilization, it's optical image stabilization, it still looks really good, and even when I'm walking around and moving, it looks pretty steady to me. Overall, the iPhone 11's camera system is pretty good, and it stands its own against pretty much all the competition in the used market at this price. Turning to the front of the iPhone 11, we have a 6.1-inch LCD display, and to be honest, it's probably its weakest point of the iPhone 11. LCD is a pretty old technology that at this time a lot of competitors were switching to OLED already, including the iPhone 11 Pro, which uses an OLED display. The LCD display on the iPhone 11 isn't the brightest and isn't the most high resolution, and it also has a pretty thick border around the whole phone. Under direct sunlight, it can be pretty hard to see the iPhone 11's display at times, so in all honesty, the iPhone 11's display isn't really the best, but it's still color accurate and it is a retina display, so you can't see the pixels individually. When buying a used iPhone 11, one of the biggest considerations you're going to have to make is the battery life. This iPhone 11 is a used iPhone and its battery health is at 84%. When I took this out on a day in the life with me, the iPhone 11 ended with 10% at the end of the day with 3 hours of screen on usage. It's not too bad, but it's just average at best. My typical usage includes using Instagram, YouTube, all my social media apps, texting, messaging, and all that kind of things. So it's pretty good for light to medium users, but if you're a heavier user, you can probably go through this battery really quickly. So that's something to keep in mind if you're a heavy user. Taking a look at the iPhone 11, this was the last iPhone to have that round and curved design, which is pretty comfortable to hold in my opinion. It is still a bit more thicker than most of the iPhones released after this model, but it still looks pretty good in 2024. The display still has pretty thick bezels around the whole phone, which does make it look a little bit outdated in 2024. But other than that, the iPhone 11 does have wireless charging, it has a glass premium back, and the metal rails around the whole phone are pretty strong and durable and feel pretty good to the touch. Now let's talk about the pricing of the iPhone 11. The iPhone 11 can be readily found on used marketplaces for around $200, which is a pretty good price if you ask me. Obviously, you do have to keep in mind the condition of the phone, and you have to also find an iPhone with a pretty good battery health. If you do manage to find a pretty good iPhone 11 at around $200, I would say that that's a pretty good deal for the iPhone 11. It's budget friendly, and for people who want to try out the Apple ecosystem, it might be the best phone to try out first. It's also good for people who want to buy an iPhone and don't want to break the bank, or for a parent looking for an iPhone for their child. In terms of software support, the iPhone 11 is expected to still get major software updates until 2025, and after that, it will probably get a few more years of security updates until about 2027. So taking a look at the long-term usage of the iPhone 11, you're probably going to get about 2 to 3 more years. So who's the iPhone 11 for in 2024? If you're a budget-conscious user who's looking for an iPhone and you're looking for something with a bit more performance, pretty good cameras, but you don't mind having an outdated display, and you don't mind having a thicker design and average battery at best, and if you can find this phone at about $200 or less, I do think the iPhone 11 might be the best iPhone for you. For its price, the iPhone 11 provides a lot of power and it can pretty much handle anything that you throw at it. It comes with a good set of cameras that perform well in pretty much every scenario, but then it also has a pretty weak display, average at best battery life, and a thicker design. If you're looking for a better display, I would recommend you taking a look at the iPhone XS or the iPhone 11 Pro, which both come with OLED displays. Or if you need a bit more battery life, take a look at the Max version of the 11 Pro or the XS. So that wraps up my review of the iPhone 11 in 2024. I'm Upwards, and if you've enjoyed this video so far, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one.